right, so I have a package. From AliExpress, and I want, oh, they've got my address on that. I love that for me. I wanted to take a look at it with you guys. I have a pretty good idea of what's inside. It's like one of 3 things, and one of those things is attached to a different review, so this might be included in that review. This might not be. We will find out. It's always exciting when nothing is labeled and nothing is marked. And I can't show the front of something because it has my address on it, even though it was in a sealed package. I really do not love when companies do that. All right. So what are you? Ah, yes. Okay. All right. You came in time. So this is a very, very small clip-on travel watercolor palette. And this is hopefully for me. Oh, that's a magnet. We're going to take a look at this in a minute, but this is very timely. What? What are you about? No instructions, of course. Oh, super cute. How do you, we're going to find, you know what? We will find out. Let me close you, attach you to you, and then it comes with a water clip. It also comes with garbage. Throw that away. And now for the other thing. So I don't think this is going to contain the thing I thought it was going to contain. Am I getting confusing yet? Am I cryptic yet? I think I know what this is. So this video is going to be real weird because I was hoping it would contain, I guess I'll just spoil it. A friend in the paint box sent a link to a palette that is being sold on AliExpress with the Faber-Castell packaging. I kind of suspect it is a knockoff, but I ordered it, and I also ordered I've been meaning to do this for a while and putting it off, a Faber-Castell Gold Faber watercolor palette. It's like the only adult palette they offer. I have reviewed some of their children's palettes before, and I just put it off because it's kind of expensive for what it is. But it did not come in today. It was the other things. So these could have been just unpacked, I guess. But you guys might know I am really into art books. Every time I went to Japan, I went and bought a bunch of art books from Book Off and Kinokuniya. I recently bought a bunch of art books during Prime Day, and I wanted to see how these AliExpress, some of them might be Chinese, some of them might be Korean, some of them might be Japanese, how these art books would compare to American art books, because I love Japanese art books. I wish I could read because they are just so good. They have lots of photos. They really demonstrate stuff. They're super inspiring. So one of you will hopefully be a generous soul and put the names of these 3 art books down in the comments, because otherwise you're going to get whatever AliExpress says these are. So this one's neat in that it has a lot of like shading and drawing and rendering stuff, so it seems like it is kind of just a general art book with tips on how to do a bunch of different things, but nothing explained in super detail. I guess some people just pick things up much faster than the rest of us. We've also got the old Chris Hart How to Draw Manga breakdowns for bodies. Not necessarily my favorite. The cup or the bucket for the hips is fine. It's the using the ball and line method to construct legs and arms. I would prefer y'all use cylinders. That's what I use, but super cute art. I also like the forced perspective breakdowns, but as you guys can see, there's not really like a lot of explanation, but that's okay. Kind of wanted to check it out. Very cute though. Then we have this one, which I believe is a watercolor book. Really beautiful art. Oh, it's really pretty. Even if it is just beautiful photos of pretty art with no, oh, there is a tutorial aspect to it. I love it. And they're using Gensai style paints. So I'm sure, oh my gosh, Some of this is so cool. Google Translate, I guess. I don't want to get like super sucked into it right now. Oh, these are beautiful. I love how they show you all these little individual things too. Super pretty. Look at how they handle the foliage. Definitely gonna be trying that out. I'm not really good at like project books, like follow along with me project books, but I love when they demonstrate. I love this. Different techniques. How do they do the white for this one? That'll be something to learn. So yes, I think I really like this one. It is so super pretty. Super duper pretty. My schedule is really difficult right now due to just health issues and family health issues, but I would love to like go through some of these techniques on a stream with you guys if you guys would be interested. Some of these are so cool and so pretty. Even if we're not gonna like, obviously probably not gonna achieve what they achieved, right? We could maybe learn some new techniques. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Really glad I got this, even though I'm gonna have to use Google Translate on this. And it is waterpub.com.cn. So I think it's a Chinese watercolor book. So pretty. We'll probably be getting more of these later. And then we have a wrapped book. This is Watercolor Light and Shadow. It looks like, oh, did they include some watercolor paper in there with frames? AliExpress. Because honestly, I am always interested in learning new watercolor techniques, new ways of handling the paint, and I feel like what is available in the US is sometimes the same thing reheated over and over and over and over again. And so just getting some like fresh inspiration would be so nice. Oh man. Just for this book alone, I'm already like really glad I did this because I'm really excited about it. I love that they packed in some paper with frames. How attached are you? Oh, you are very glued on. Okay, this is not really removable. So we're not going to force it. This is by Fei Li Niao. And there's a QR code on the back. It costs this amount. I think I paid between 15 and 20 for each of these art books to give you guys some context. And it is feilinyao.com. And if you guys would mind translating the titles for me, I would appreciate it, at least if they differ from what AliExpress offers. Oh, it's so pretty. And the paper's nice, so it actually reflects. It's thin, but it's nice, so it reflects the colors really well, which is not always the case with art books. Oh, interesting. This is a Van Gogh set. Oh, and they show different brushwork. These are really, man, why do Western how-to art books, why are they not this good? See, this is, if I ever do a watercolor book, this should be my goals. Of course, somebody had to like take all these photos during the process, which is challenging, but these are so pretty and so cool. Hey, Joseph, can you come see? When you're done washing your hands, can you come see? I want to show you something. Thank you. Come look at these. Look at them. Flip through them.
I heard you say something about Western art books.
Yes.
That's weird.
Well, it's a pack-in, but I can't wait. Up. It's a pack-in, so I if I remove it, it might tear it.
Very pretty.
I know, right? Look at all the example step-by-step photos. That's what I was saying. Western art books don't do enough of that.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of similar to what you did in the back of 7-inch Care Volume 2.
That's what I was drawing on. I just didn't do it as well as they're doing it. But yeah, if you're interested in watercolor comics, the back of Volume 2 has a section on how I make watercolor comics.
Yeah, and things look laid out well too. And I'm sure if you read Japanese, it'd be helpful.
Well, I think it's Chinese, but yeah, I know what you mean. Because I have a bunch of really good
does look like Chinese.
Japanese art books as well. But I want to learn not just the techniques, but how to lay the page out like this in a way that if I ever do a watercolor comics book, I can show. And this one is super pretty too. The cover stock's a little nicer. So it's project based, but I love that they show you all these different techniques, and a lot of them are techniques I'm not familiar with or never thought to do. So look how pretty that is. And then they just glaze. So they do the wet into wet, and then they just glaze the leaf shapes, and it reads as so much. Like, that's such a good technique for trees. And I got those on AliExpress because I wanted to get some, I mean, you know, I love Japanese art books. I wanted to get some Chinese and Korean watercolor books as well, because there's a lot of artists I like on TikTok and Instagram, and I love their techniques, but I need more instructions than just like looking at their thing and trying to figure it out.
I mean, that's kind of what you're going to be doing here, though, right?
Well, I could utilize Google Translate to help me.
Yeah.
For some of the things that are a little less, like I don't really, are they saying something about the granulation there? I don't know. So I might need Google Translate for that. But, oh, they're so pretty, and they're very simple, and my work is always overcomplicated. So I love, like you get like the misty fade out down at the bottom, but you get the really clean. It looks so good. Or like the use of like white on top, and in Western style watercolor, this would be considered like you should have reserved that earlier on. But sure. I've always kind of identified more in many ways with Chinese and Japanese style watercolor, because utilizing the gouache to fix things or add things later on, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, often
it can, a foreground element or whatever.
Yeah, often it can be used to like get that crispy contrast. And I think they're working with Gensai style paint, so it's like paints I already own too.
Sure. So
I don't have to like track anything down. Aren't those cool?
I don't see anything about 1,000,000 steps to paint bamboo, so.
That's different kind of Chinese watercolor. I've got books on that too.
Yeah.
But thank you for taking a look with me. I wanted to get a second opinion, especially for someone who has looked at as much watercolor art and watercolor comic art as Joseph has. Plus, when I'm painting, he's usually the second opinion I ask for when I feel all like mentally fatigued and worn down and I need a fresh set of eyes. Joseph usually helps me out. So I am really excited about these two books. And I hope at some point I have the time to we can play around with some of the techniques demonstrated together. And of course I will link everything in the description for you guys. So that leaves us with this mini watercolor palette. It is super tiny. It is meant for me to fill, which is what I wanted, because I'm kind of picky about paint. And it comes with, so these are meant to clip onto a watercolor book, or if you're using a support board, your watercolor support board. So there's a tiny pot for water with a little bitty rubber gasket so it won't leak. Has a clip on the back. This was also shared with me multiple times in the paint box, so I know people wanted to see it. It also has this magnet clip here. So this is meant to clip into your sketchbook. It's a really, really, really tight clip. It's hard for me to open, but that's good because that means it's going to really stay on. And then you clip this onto it, and then it has a, so you can't just open it, you could probably force it. It has a small button, and then it has, still not sure, this might be a brush rest, still not sure what that is. That's okay. It has this in here, which I don't know how, oh, interesting. So this does shift. Don't know how to remove this. You might want to remove it from the little frame though. When filling and cleaning it out, has a teeny tiny little sponge to clean off your brush, so you'd want to pre-moisten this. And it also has up here, this is a mixing surface, and it has a teeny tiny little protective thing on it so that to keep it from getting scratched up in transit. I really want to figure out how to open this so that we can, I need to figure out what colors I want to put in this. But so I'll just be real with you guys. I have a family member who is going to be going to the hospital a lot, probably. We're still waiting on test results. So I am spending a lot of time waiting at the hospital, and I wanted a palette that was super duper compact, could do very limited colors, really discreet, wouldn't take up a lot of space, and would break up, clean up really quickly and easily. So I ordered this actually before I really knew how much time we might be spending at the hospital, but this came just in time. This is going to be, I think, pretty dang perfect. I have reviewed a lot of travel palettes with you guys over the years, different use cases. These are pretty inexpensive. We're going to take a look at AliExpress in a moment, so it might be worth your time. I know people were really interested in it, and I'll try to remember to include footage of me filling it as well. What I really want to know, what the little monkey in me wants to know, is how to get the liner off without breaking it. I don't see any obvious ways. I might need a pry bar. But, so, I was thinking that in order to not just spend my time doing nothing and waiting or only doing digital drawing, that maybe I would start working on just like a mini series of like things I like cottagecore things, or maybe drawing different Lilliputian houses, or just something like really simple that could be done in a watercolor sketchbook while I'm waiting. And especially because I find painting to be really calming and really relaxing, and it really helps with my anxiety. So unfortunately, they keep us waiting, but they don't tell us how long we're going to wait or how long we have until they're going to call us in. They're very disrespectful, frankly, of their patients and patient families' time. And I know I'm not the only person with this problem, but I bring that up because if I knew how much time I had, obviously I could plan accordingly, pack accordingly, and clean up accordingly. But if I'm expected to just dash up and go back into the doctor's waiting room and to wait another 30 minutes, then I need something that is really simple and really discreet. And I mean, when I say discreet, I don't mean not attracting a lot of attention, although that is not really my goal. I also think that making art in public is something we should normalize. I just didn't want to like take over a whole table or just be this huge mess of a person. And I think this, combined with something else I bought recently, might help me to be a little bit more portable for the time being with my art. So this came just in the nick of time. I'm really excited about this, and I have to think about what colors, if I had to put, so we have 9 colors and then we have room for a bigger color. I have to think about what I want to put in here, and also how I can jimmy this off so I can build them all the way up. And this looks like it is probably laser cut acrylic. It slides a whole bunch, and I can't tell if the divider actually has a bottom to it or not. That would make a big difference in how one would clean this thing. But I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. Maybe if I take this off, it will come out a little more easily. And honestly, now that I look at this, so here is a different little mini travel watercolor palette. And what makes this a travel watercolor palette, and I'll show you guys, it's just like a normal looking little mint tin, and inside are our dividers. You could use, honestly, probably any fridge magnet clip with a good magnet on it to do the exact same thing. You just won't have the water pot. So you could DIY this with an Altoids tin. You could definitely, I mean, it's not quite as nice looking, but you could do this on a budget very easily. And we're all about the good art with good art supplies on a budget over here. Because if I can help you guys save money on your studio basics and your travel watercolor basics, then you can actually spend money on your art supplies or on art prints. Here is our travel watercolor paint set mini portable paint box watercolor painting ... dispenser set 10 to 16 grids watercolor palette empty box. I paid $16.88, which, considering what is included in it, is not a bad deal. So let's clickety click so you guys can see how it attaches and how it's meant to be filled. And interestingly, it looks like they slotted the little paint pot into the clip itself, so it doesn't even have to take any room up on the paper. And another nice thing about this is it clips your book open, which many of us find very helpful. They have a few different styles. They have this one here, which has 12, we have the one that I ordered here, and then they have the travel kit. I did not want their brush or their water. I have plenty of watercolor brushes, and I didn't want their book either. I just wanted the little mini palette. Trying to see if I can find any information. Oh, maybe they clipped it to this little thing here. That's what I think they did. I thought that was a brush rest, but maybe they clipped it to that. That seems okay. All right. Now what I want to know is how to open this so that you can access, because you see how well they got that filled up. You couldn't do that if it's still in place. But are they gonna show that? Probably not. Yeah, not seeing anything about that. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to solve that, so I'm gonna have to tinker with it until I figure it out, I guess. That's one of the downsides about AliExpress, is like, this stuff often doesn't come with instructions, so you're frequently just kind of guessing. And then, there we go. Wait, I don't want to visit the store itself. I don't know what I'm thinking. I want to visit the books. Oh, you know what? While I'm here, I might as well show you guys these, because they came separately. And this already came, but that's its own thing. See, the picture does make it look a little thicker than it actually is. I was expecting kind of like a hardcover tome of a book, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, it is what the picture said. But I am super happy about this book and really excited about it and ready to try out some of the techniques that they were demonstrating. Like, I am all about that. Here is the other one, and I will link these for you guys. This one is more expensive. Not a whole lot of information about the book. And then finally this one, oh, it's okay. It's Korean Painters Hyo Sungmoo Girl Drawing Skills Class Painting Tutorial Technique Art Book. Mostly it's just like how to draw girls and things related to girls. But it is in Chinese. It's not actually in Korean. So I guess that'll make it easier to try and Google Translate. All these books are the same ones, same language, I mean. This is Watercolor Light and Shadow, Watercolor Landscape, Sky, Ocean, Tree, Building, Private Class Painting, Drawing, Art Book. And then finally, this is Chinese Ancient Style, Watercolor Painting, Entry Book, Watercolor Drawing, Technique, Landscape Painting, Tutorial Book. So you got all that. If you guys could translate the names for me and leave that in the description below, I would be so appreciative. But one thing I kind of want to point out, a little bit of a sequitur, because, or non sequitur, because there's not really, this isn't really worth a vlog, but it is an important subject. I have this topic brought up to me not infrequently, that many artists can't follow along with video tutorials, that they prefer written tutorials. I'm very similar. They also complain that they need step-by-step photos of every single step with loads of written instruction. I can understand that. Those things are very time-consuming. I used to do that to an extent over on the Natosoup blog. I would still do it to an extent, and sometimes I'm able to do it on Patreon, patreon.com/Natosoup. But they are very, very, very time-consuming. And it is not the sort of content that is easy to share for free as a regular type of content, because it is so time consuming. So my recommendation, what I do is I seek out books like this, and sometimes it's a pig in a poke and I can't flip through it and I don't know how step by step it's going to be. I was really lucky with many of my Japanese art books and many of these Chinese art books. They seem to be very step by step, but it's still a language I can't read. So I have to kind of either guess or try and fail, or use Google Translate, which is often full of flaws, to figure it out. So if this kind of step-by-step written and photo instruction is something that you would like to see, I take photos the whole time I'm painting, but I don't often share all those photos but if it's something you would like to see and you'd like to see it from me, you like my art, you like how I do things, you like how I explain things, then I have 2 recommendations. One of them is join me over on Patreon, because that's where I'm going to share it, and I'm going to share it just, if you're a paying patron, you'll get it. It'll be at the lowest tier, but that's where I'm going to share it. 2, when you join my Patreon, let me know. Please don't send me a message through Patreon, because I'm really bad and I don't remember to check the messages, and every different social network has its own message thing, and I'm ADHD and I'm not going to keep up with it. Let me know either through email or join me over on my Discord server, The Paint Box. I'll put a link for you guys down in the description below. And let me know specifically that you joined wanting to see written photo tutorials. And I will make that happen for you guys. I'll even, while I'm sitting at the hospital, I will even go through my backlog and write a bunch of those up. But I need to know there's interest in that. I need to know you guys want that. Because otherwise I feel like I'm just kind of like throwing darts in the dark. But I'm happy to do it. It would make me really happy to be able to do that for you guys, and I would feel very flattered. I just need to know that there's a demand. But as I said, this is very time consuming to do. It requires it's a lot of effort, more effort in some ways than recording a time-lapse video and then narrating as quickly as I can, Miss Motormouth, on top of it. Sometimes so fast that I can't even describe certain techniques very well, and I just hope that I've done tutorials about them in the past. But if there's interest, I am happy to do it. I just need to know that there's interest, and I just need the financial support to justify the time spent doing it. You know what I mean? So not a problem. Just let me know. But I agree in some ways. I learn better from written and photo visuals than I do from video. I do enjoy watching art videos, but that's like a different part of the brain. It's just relaxing for me. So if I want to learn, I will typically buy books on the topic or check them out from my library. And I'll also grant you guys that like a lot of American art books are not very good and the art is good, but they don't explain and demonstrate in enough detail. And as someone who does that as well, but for video, it is really hard to get in there and take photos of it while you're doing the thing. So I'm not faulting American creators who are unable to juggle all that, especially if you're self-published. That is a lot of hats to wear and a lot of work. I'm just saying that I can understand if you have tried American art books and you find them lackluster or they're not giving you what you need. Also, asking specific questions can be very helpful because sometimes people just don't know what other people don't know. So one more we'll take a look at. I found these watercolor stamps. And I mean, obviously I could have gone out and bought a stamp and done this myself like I did with my circle stamp, but sometimes it's not worth doing that when you just want to do a few because you think they're super cute. So these are supposedly 100% cotton pulp blank stamp watercolor paper. I got them in 2 sizes. They are very cute. Maybe this will be what I bring to the hospital to work on. And then they also have some little round, almost like portraits, and they're very, very cute. I'll show them in real life, in video life in a second. And I'll link all these for you guys. I mean, look at this. Look at it, and they're holding it with tweezers. I mean, for real. And you have other options. You have like the ticket blank, but I really like the little stamps. And part of that is maybe because in 7-inch Cara, I'm always decorating the walls of their dollhouse with different stamps. So, you know, maybe that's kind of what I was thinking of. But so it's 20 pieces, $7.75 for these pre-punched out little things. 20 pieces, $10 for the larger ones. $11.13 for the ticket style ones. Then we have these cuties here. These are $8.35, and I guess it's the same thing, $8.35. So I don't know that these are going to be a video in and of themselves. I may do a bunch of them. They would also be super cute for like rubber eraser printing, and that's becoming really popular now. So that might be another thing to try with them. But they're very portable. They're very tiny. So I thought, I like tiny things. What can I say? I make a comic about tiny people living in a dollhouse in a forgotten shed in Southeast Louisiana. Y'all know what I'm into. But I thought do they all come with different, it says medium coarse. That means it has some texture. No, they're, fine. So whoever is doing these is probably taking the orders, punching them out, and then shipping them. And here they are. Are they not super cute? They are so adorable. I want to be careful because although I wash my hands frequently, I haven't washed my hands since recording something outside. So they're fairly thin. That looks like 90-pound paper, but honestly, you don't want to go too thick with something this small. And they're just super cute. Like, do they serve a purpose? Probably not. Are they cute? Yes. I had a subscription to Mokahan's, when they were doing the tiny Matchbox prints. Joseph got me a subscription to that. So, you know, this is very, very in keeping with my personality. Very in keeping with the kind of things I like. You'd think I would do more miniature art, but that requires hand coordination that my arthritis just does not want to allow me to have anymore. So I can't really do a lot of that. And then we have, these are bigger than they looked, but they are all very cute. And yes, they sell punches that could do this. Punches are about 20 bucks a pop, and I just don't think I have enough interest to justify buying a punch. I bought a tag punch that you have to do a lot of prep work to get the tags, but I bought a tag punch for about 20 bucks, and this is for watercolor swatches, and then I can join them on a ring. I've done videos where I show you guys that. And I've bought a circle punch because I have literally done about 100, maybe more than 100 of the super granulating wet into wet tests. Those I'm going to be doing a lot of, so it made sense to buy a punch. But for something where I might only have 20 pieces of interest, you know, makes more sense for somebody else to go ahead and buy the punch and do the labor. All right, so Joseph got this open for me. It is friction fit in, so you could actually remove it entirely and fill this. It does have a bottom. It's just a super clear bottom. Joseph used my palette knife and he used the thicken to pry it up. So we're going to reassemble it and demonstrate it. Big thanks to Joseph. He has a little bit more manual dexterity than I do. That's years of playing video games for you. And so sometimes when things are a little too fiddly for me, I will ask for his assistance. It did seem like it got a little bent out of shape. Not from him, because it's on this side. And I assume he didn't. Okay, so there. It's back in. So, oh, while we're here, let's practice clipping this on. Oh, yeah. All right. All right. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, and then we're going to practice. And he said not a lot of force. I'm going to have to hand this back over to him, I think. Hang on a sec. Camera was too close. It was interfering with the pry tool. It might still be too close. We're going to find out. I'm really going to have to get him to do it. It's going to be, he going to fuss, but I wanted to demonstrate it for you guys. Joseph, thank you. I bet he regrets working in the same studio now. Would you explain the process?
Yeah, so I put it in the middle where you would expect.
That's what I was doing.
And just like gently lifted. See, it shifted there.
I see.
It's moving up.
If it had a divot at the bottom, you could catch it more easily and
now
pry
it's just
it up.
bending.
You did it! You did it! Awesome! Thank you! Can you guys tell which one of us is better at peeling or cracking crabs than the other? It's Joseph! Thank you! So I haven't decided what 9 colors I'm going to put in here yet, so I'm not going to... I'll probably do that as a time lapse with you guys. But I wanted to show you guys, in case you bought this, you really want like something of this, like a screwdriver, and just gently wiggle it would probably work well. You don't want to use anything this thin because it will ruin your pry tool. It's time to add some paint. So I only have 9 colors to work with one well being much larger than the other. So I want to save that well for a color that I'm going to use all the time. Yellow is really good as kind of a swing color. If you use a mid yellow, you can mix good greens as well as really nice oranges. So I decided to dedicate that larger space to the yellow since that is a color that I use all the time. I also wanted to swatch my colors since we have such a limited selection and we have zero room for mistakes. I wanted to be really sure about the colors that I'm including. Now, these are not from any one particular brand. You guys see many brands here. This is what I mean when I say I am absolutely not brand loyal. Different colors can be manufactured a little bit differently or can look a little bit different depending on the brand. So I wanted to go with the colors that I liked best from each brand. So we have a representation of some M. Grahams. I think we have some Sennelier, some Holbein, we have some Winsor Newton, and we have some Core. And that's, oh, and one Daniel Smith. And that's pretty indicative of what I paint with regularly. So three interesting inclusions here are a Chinese orange, undersea green, as well as Payne's gray rather than dedicating space to a black. And the reason I decided to do undersea green is because it has such a beautiful granulation pattern that's so nice for foliage and because I can mix decent greens with the yellow and blue. This little mini palette here does present several fairly significant challenges, not just getting it apart, but also filling it. So the wells are so small that even if you're being fairly careful, if you're working with regular size, not mini size tubes, it can actually be challenging to get the paint to go all the way to the bottom. And I did actually tap the little acrylic thing against my tabletop. I just didn't do that on camera because that would make the camera shake and it would be really annoying for you guys. Also, some of these, the openings on some of these tubes are larger than the opening on the little palette itself. So I don't really have good recommendations for how you can fill it. You can use a palette knife to kind of squeegee the paint into each little pan and then wipe it off afterwards. I am going to fill this in a session of 2 fillings since watercolors do tend to, as they evaporate, they lose mass and they kind of reduce down. And I want to make sure I can get as much paint in these little wells as possible because they really don't hold a whole lot more than a single dot. This is dried out for about a week since I filled it. I'm going to top it off since this little palette can be really hard to take apart for me and refill. Some of them also, as you guys can see, because these spaces are so tiny, even though I did tamp it down, just didn't do that on camera and you guys could see why just now. Some of them left air pockets at the bottom because again, they are so tiny. I don't really know what you can do about that. Some of these drier colors, you can just kind of shove them down and then fill on top of them. But like this scarlet here, not sure what I'm going to do about that. But I'm going to give it another top up and let it dry for another week. This second fill was almost more challenging than the first because these hold so little and because, as you can see, some of these colors do separate out and you end up with a lot of gum arabic, and then M. Grahams doesn't really like to set, or it takes a really long time to set up because it has that honey binder in it, and I live in a very humid place. But some of these itty bitty ones were just so challenging to top off and kind of mush in there, and they took a lot of, like with the scarlet, I had to finesse it in with a paintbrush. It didn't turn out as pretty as in the pictures, I'll tell you that. Now, a tool that's helpful for this is not necessarily a paintbrush like I'm using, but I end up switching to a little silicone shaper tool. So if you already have one of those, I would use that to kind of mush it in because you can just squeegee that off with a wet paper towel. Also, make sure you remember what order your colors are in. I did not. About a week had passed between my first fill and my second fill, and I got a couple of my colors, the blues, honestly, a little bit mixed up, and I had to kind of scrape it off from the top. It's been several weeks. This has been refilled twice. Looking kind of messier for the wear. I think it's time though for us to finally assemble this little palette. And I had to let this dry really, really well because the M. Grahams is still pretty tacky. Southeast Louisiana, y'all, even though we're in a drought, it is still humid. but I am going to go ahead and assemble it. You can see why it would be important though for your paints to dry fully. So we're just going to attempt to push that back in and get that second one popped in. There we go. That's what it looks like filled. That seems to shut okay. And can we shut it all the way? We can! Hooray! This thing really does not hold a lot of paint, but that's really what you're not looking, like you're not looking for this to hold a lot of paint. There are other mini palettes that hold more paint, and I have a video where I talk about that in more depth if you're interested. It does shift around a little bit though, so if you want it to stay in place, you could use, like, I don't know, some double stick tape, just a little bit on the bottom just to hold it down so it doesn't move all over with you. You could even put it in a place that's a little bit easier for you to get your brush in, because as you guys can see, there's a lip and there's a fair amount of your paint that ends up getting kind of covered by the lip. But I'm glad that we have it filled. I'm glad it is ready to go, ready to take out and paint. And I'm really glad I was able to share this with you guys. This was a fun and kind of unusual AliExpress haul, and I'm really glad that I could share it with you guys. I am particularly delighted that these Chinese watercolor books are just such a wealth of information, and this is definitely something I'm going to be exploring more in the future. Let me know if there are any techniques shown in either of these books that you guys would be interested in us maybe painting together sometime, or at least attempting to paint together sometime, because there's nothing more fun than getting to paint with friends. And let me know too if you have the titles for these books, not the AliExpress titles, but the actual translated titles, because I would really appreciate it and that would help other people find them. You guys can find links to everything that I talked about today down in the description below if you're curious. Obviously, since it's AliExpress, I don't have any kind of working relationship with them. I'm just intensely curious, but if you like what I do and you want to continue to help me do what I do here on the channel, you can join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. If you could send this video to somebody who you think would be interested either in Chinese watercolor books or this adorable mini palette, please do so. That helps out a lot. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in the future with another art supply review or tutorial. You can make sure that happens by clicking the subscribe button and hitting the bell notification to let YouTube know that you want to hear more from me.